Okay, kia ora everyone. Back to viruses. And remember, the key thing that we need to know through this is what the structure and the life processes of a virus are. So one of the key elements is your genetic material, or DNA or RNA or nucleic acid. This is the key section of a virus. It contains all of the instructions not only to replicate itself, but to make each of the parts of the virus. So it can basically hijack a cell and get it to start making itself rather than the normal cell processes. So it has the instructions for the capsid and for the envelope, all of those sort of things, any protein, any part of the virus. Sometimes it will be double-stranded DNA, but sometimes it'll be single-stranded RNA, and that just depends on what sort of cell it is targeting. It needs the machinery of a cell to get it to work. The capsid is the protecting coat or protecting shell that encloses your protein. And that's often made up of different proteins. So you can see that this one's a bit of a tetrahedral shape, made up of these sort of triangular proteins and these little spikes out here. It might have spike proteins, which will help it to penetrate the host cell, either getting in or getting out. And it will often have receptors as well. So when we look at viruses replicate using their host cell. So they gain entry into the host cell. Sometimes they're injected in, sometimes they're absorbed in. And it's usually just the genetic material, or that's the important part that gets into the cell. That genetic material is brought into the genetic material of the host cell. And the host cell just thinks, oh, cool, this is some more instructions. Let's turn these into proteins. And so the bacterial DNA or RNA is able to hijack the cell's normal mechanisms for turning DNA into proteins and replicating DNA, and it uses it to replicate more of its genetic material and some proteins, which are going to be then assembled into capsids. And then once they get to a final stage, they will what's called lyse the cell. They'll break out of it, and then they can go in and infect and take over another cell, each of those. And this is why bacteria, or why viruses will spread very quickly throughout the body, because one of these can produce thousands and even in some cases millions of copies of itself within a cell. Sometimes a virus might not burst out of the cell straight away. Sometimes they're a bit hidden. This is called lysogenic, the lysogenic cycle. And basically a virus can sit in the DNA of a host cell, and when that host cell divides, it'll replicate the viral DNA as well. So you might go a long time, many generations of cells, like if you think about our body, we're constantly dividing cells, before the sort of replication of the virus within the cell is activated. This often happens when there's stress. So there's the warts virus is a good example. So if you're under stress, often some of your cells might have a warts virus in them. If those cells get stressed, the virus will activate and you'll get a little wart pop up. Same thing often happens in plants. Towards the end of the season, they'll get a lot of diseases because they're under stress. And then it can go and do the normal sort of infection and bursting of the cell as normal. The protein